Happy Monday, everybody. All right, I've got some news articles to talk about as well. So this last week, I noticed a few articles that kind of caught my attention, and they're a little bit related to last week's missed videos. So the first one is about GDP. GDP surprised everybody with great news that GDP is up. That means the economy is up. That means the economy is stronger than everybody was expecting. So I'm reading this headline, but the news wasn't all good, and it's more nuanced than that. There was another article that was addressing GDP too. And so GDP is up, technically, but there's several components in GDP. GDP stands for gross domestic product. It's the amount of money that a country generates. In the United States, it's up for two reasons. One, the government is spending a lot. And that's after they spent so much during COVID. They're still spending a lot. But that's not really productive for the actual economic health of the country. The second category is consumer spending is up. And I talked about that last week too. Consumer spending is up, but not because they're enjoying life. So there's more nuance there too. Consumer spending is up. Meanwhile, consumer savings is down. Credit card debt is up. So consumers are spending more, not on more stuff, but just because prices are going up. So that's inflation. That's not healthy economics. So consumer spending is up, and the consumers aren't taking care of themselves financially. They're not saving. So their savings accounts are being depleted. Meanwhile, their credit cards are going up. That's not a good sign. Also, credit card rates are up to 28%. That's shocking. They were down to 14% a decade ago. So those two categories are driving GDP. The third category that affects GDP is actually negative. That's business spending. So businesses are spending less right now. That's what you want for a healthy economy, because that means the businesses are investing in themselves, and that investment is going to pay off in the future with economic activity, and that's not happening. So GDP being a strong economy, not so much right now. Also, I read another article in The Economist where they did a poll of American consumers asking the average American, what's the number one aspect that you judge the economic health with? Small percentage said the stock market. Now, we think about the stock market all the time, and I know our audience does too, but the average American, not so much. A small percent said GDP. A small percent said the jobs report. Over half said what I spend on goods and services, which goes back to inflation. So if I'm spending more on goods and services, then that's not a good economy. Or if I have less money in my pocket at the end of the day because I had to spend so much on goods and services, that's not so great for the economy. So the news that the economy is great because GDP is up, it's a statistic, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. And it doesn't translate to a whole lot for the average American. Okay, the last news article I'm going to talk about is a little different, but it relates back to us, you as clients, our investment philosophy. And that's that Ford and General Motors just announced that they're putting the brakes on their electric vehicle production and their goals. They both announced they're not going to be able to hit their goals. They were aggressive goals, they're not going to be able to hit them in terms of production, transitioning away from the internal combustion towards electric vehicles. Now, the CEO of Toyota said, basically, see, I told you guys so. He's been skeptical this whole time on these really aggressive transition cycles, but he's not an American. He's based in Japan. Meanwhile, Ford and General Motors are American companies. The political environment in America has been very motivated to move to electric vehicles. Therefore, two of the largest companies plus largest car makers have said, yeah, we're getting in line with the politics of America. But the Japanese car maker was like, I don't think that's realistic. Turns out the Japanese car maker was right. Meanwhile, Greg and I have been talking about a little bit of skepticism in the electric vehicles. Not that they're not a great idea. I actually love the idea. I've been in a couple. They're super cool cars. If I've got 4 kids, a wife and 4 kids, if there was an electric vehicle that could pull all of us and our travel trailer behind us, I might be up for it, especially if it didn't cost over $100,000. But that's not the case. And so for me, I haven't made that transition yet, but it's not personal for me. My issue is you can't just turn off the spigot of oil. And that's what we've said, is that the politicians can say all they want. Oil's not going anywhere, not for probably 50 years, if not longer, in terms of actual automotive technology. This is just kind of proof in the pudding. Meanwhile, we've been continuing to invest in oil. No matter what politicians talk about, it's dirty. Sure it is, but it's also what runs the world. And so you've probably noticed that in your portfolios. Oil's been doing really well. And it's not, see, I told you so, but this is just evidence that, we're doing our research. We also use logic. We try to read between political headlines, and then we try to make you money, and it's paying off. So with that, if you all see any good headlines, send them our way. Sometimes you do, and we appreciate it. And other than that, we'll see you guys next week.